Felicitous greetings, fellow fanatics. Welcome back one and all, I'm Adam the Fanatic, and today we're taking a look at The Hive, an RTS and action RPG hybrid by Skydome Entertainment. This should be a good warm-up before I revisit the Xur campaign in StarCraft. In The Hive, you'll take on the role of an alien hivemind trapped in a vast network of caverns and yearning to reach the planet's surface. In typical RTS fashion, you'll harvest resources and build up your base, which you'll then use to produce an army. Different structures can produce different units, including legionnaires and rhinos as your basic melee units, hunters and wasps as ranged attackers, a single queen that bolsters the strength of nearby forces, medics to heal, and behemoths, which are basically the mammoth tanks of the game. Late game heavy units that can handle anything thrown at them with both ranged and melee modes. On the base building side of things, the game is pretty straightforward. You'll gather food to produce units and minerals to build structures, but you'll also need to dip into the ARPG side of things in order to unlock new units. Unlike many other RTS campaigns, you do not automatically unlock new units by progressing through the campaign. Rather, as the game goes on, you'll find items on fallen foes. Some of these only exist to be broken down for DNA, but others may be equipped. Equipment may still be broken down, with rare and more powerful equipment giving you more DNA for doing so. DNA allows you to unlock new units, sometimes new skills for those units, as well as generic attack and defense upgrades for classes of units. Unlike traditional RTS games, these unlocks are permanent. Equipment and all DNA-based upgrades persist throughout the campaign, so if you unlock something early on, you won't have to unlock it in later levels. For the most part, you'll progress through levels by defeating enemies and destroying their bases, but sometimes you'll have dungeons with puzzles you have to solve, including some where you'll have to click on elements to interact with them in adventure game-like fashion. This is a minor element of the game, don't be expecting missed, but one to be aware of all the same. However, what is a much more significant part of the game are the aforementioned ARPG elements. Every once in a while, you'll come across a boss fight which will use telegraphed area attacks. They're taking an attack slowly, so you can generally save a good portion of your army if you're quick, but you'll need to whittle them down little by little. I should make clear a couple points about this game that subvert expectations of the genre. Firstly, be aware this is solely a campaign-driven single-player game. There is no multiplayer, nor a skirmish mode. Each map is constructed to be played within the campaign. You're not going to be against an enemy that builds up a base from nothing as you might in a typical RTS. Secondly, be aware that you can only play as the Hive. The other races in the game are purely designed as enemies. I don't find either of these to be negatives, just be aware of them going in, as I realize that both are unexpected choices. On to presentation, the game looks and sounds pretty good. The insectoid units all look unique from one another, you can easily tell what's what in your army at a glance. On the other hand, I have to criticize that the terrain begins to feel very samey. Over the course of the game, you spend your entire time in a single underground biome, and it does start to look rather repetitive by the time you wrap things up. Story-wise, the game opens with a cutscene where humanity is fleeing Earth because of an unspecified impending disaster, and setting course for the planet of New Eden. The setup is kind of interesting, but it's also largely irrelevant. The actual plot of the game is about the Hive seeking to reach the planet's surface, and for the most part, humanity is not a part of this tale. There's not much to discuss in the way of spoilers, but all the same, I feel I must do so in order to give the game a full review. If you wish to avoid spoilers, please jump ahead to the time coordinates indicated on screen. Initiate temporal distortion now. Still with me? Then don't say I didn't warn you. The story is honestly pretty light. There's not much in the way of twists and turns, but there are a couple of things that I feel I do need to point out. Firstly, about halfway through the game, you'll unlock the powerful Avatar unit. This is a sturdy and heavy-hitting melee unit, but you can only have one at a time. I don't know if you lose the game if it dies, I never actually had it happen to me. But back to the plot, the opening cutscene does have some minor relevance, but only at the very end of the game. The closing cutscene makes it clear that humanity arrives at New Eden at the same time that the Hive finally reaches the surface. Will they be enemies? Allies? I don't know, it never actually shows that meeting, but it does seem to be setting up for some sort of sequel, although I couldn't find anything that says that one has formally been announced. Welcome back, Chrononauts. You're just in time to join us for the conclusion. All in all, The Hive is an interesting game. I wouldn't call it bad, but it does feel a little weak. The RTS elements have you wanting to boot up something like Age of Empires or StarCraft, while the ARPG elements have you wanting to reinstall Titan Quest. It wasn't terrible, and I don't regret playing it, but it did feel a little repetitive, and aside from boss fights, enemies were rather lacking in variety. Difficulty-wise, the game was pretty easy. I only had to restart a level one time on normal difficulty. I did try the first couple of levels on hard mode, but that just seemed to give enemies more HP and didn't change things in an intriguing manner. Though I do re-emphasize, this is based off only the first 2 levels. I also feel that the game doesn't do a very good job of explaining things. There's no manual, no tutorial, and a lot of what it does you're expected to just know. As an RTS veteran, yes, I do know how to make control groups and the like, but you can't assume that everyone will. And then there's the inventory management in DNA, which is not explained in-game at all. I had to look on the forums to figure out how to actually dissolve items to gain DNA. Literally went through the first half of the game figuring DNA would be explained later in the campaign. It simply isn't. That being said, the ideas aren't bad, and the execution isn't terrible. Not great, but not terrible either. As an experimental first showing from indie newcomer Skydome Entertainment, I am rather curious as to what they'll do next. While I'm not blown away, they have at least shown that they can build a solid foundation, and I'm interested to see if they can build on that in the future. As for the Hive itself, I find it to be worthy a decent 7 out of 10. The Hive is currently available for PC via Steam. If you're interested in purchasing or learning more, links are included in the description. But what about you? What do you think of the Hive? What genre hybrids do you enjoy? If you have any questions, remarks, or opposing points of view, leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell. And if you really enjoy my work, please consider funding my channel on Patreon. Until next time, farewell, fellow fanatics. Thank you again for watching. I have plenty more to share with you if you're interested. You can click up here above my head to subscribe to my channel. You can click over here on my monitor to see the most recent video that I've worked on. Or if you prefer, you can click up here to open this mysterious vault and see what video that the YouTube algorithm has picked just for you.